Hi, oftentimes I get the question, how do you use mushrooms? Well, there's many ways of using them. Butter and garlic is a simple way that everybody loves. But I came up with a recipe that by putting different ingredients together that are in kind of the low carb list, or if you're fighting a gluten and you want to be gluten free, there's certain foods that I see coming up over and over again. Mushrooms is one of those things. Garlic, sweet potato is good for keeping your insulin down or not raising it, let's say, quite as high as other carbs. So with that in mind, I call this recipe sweet Morel-ato, sweet potato with the morel in between, sweet Morel-ato. I also made this recipe with portobello, and it's very good with that, and I'm sure other mushrooms too. But we're going to do it today with morels. People love morels. I'm going to start by setting the timer, preheating it to 400 degrees, and letting it warm up while we're doing this. Okay, so first of all, you start with your sweet potatoes, and I just get one of the large sweet potatoes. I already cut one in half, and we're going to do the other half. Now, there are different kinds of items that we carry on the farm, and I'm going to mention a few, but a lot of these things are interchangeable, such as the mushrooms. You can interchange the mushrooms, morels, portobello, shiitake, probably almost any mushroom, maitake. But what I was trying to do is come up with a recipe that, that mushroom had that woody type taste, and that's just what I prefer to do. So another thing that we're going to be talking about is sea bean. And sea bean is a seagrass that grows at the beach. And so sea bean is interchangeable with salt. So you can use just plain table salt. And we're going to get there, but right now we're done with the cutting the sweet potato. Okay, garlic is huge in health. So I'm not going to go through, some of the different things I've heard, just to say that I'm one of those people that do fight gluten as a problem. And so I'm really starting to explore different ways and different foods that are good for you. And, so you feel like you don't have to give up everything. Lots of garlic. That's what I found out in this recipe. I've never been a huge sweet potato fan, but when I cook it with certain things, I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy this recipe. Oil, plenty of oil. A lot of people try to avoid oil, and I have heard different things about different types of oil. So I would just say, find an oil that you want to use, for health reasons, because we don't want to avoid it. We just want to not have the wrong kinds of oil. And this is, I actually put quite a bit on it. Next, let's do the morel. Morel is in season in the summer. And I think in the late spring as well. So it's good to have another alternative to make this recipe, or other recipes, if the morel is not in season. Shiitake is what we have, and that's in season year round. It's we cultivate the shiitake, and it's some of the healthiest mushrooms I've ever read about. I would encourage you, if you're concerned about health, to read about shiitake, maitake too. But if I want to go for woody, I would say morel, maitake, shiitake, or morel, shiitake, and portobello are probably the way to go. I did wash these before I started this, so if I didn't already say so. Okay, next I'm going to go with the salt, and really just the salty flavor and the pepper is all this recipe takes. So with sea beans grow at the bay, and they grow during the summertime. You know, you can get them as early as May, at least here in the Northwest. And they go, I picked them as late as like the end of September, maybe even the beginning of October, but that's pretty rare. There's one place I know to get them at that time, but generally speaking, you can pick up sea bean between June and September, or even June and August would be the prime time. But with this recipe, you don't need sea bean. I want to show people how to use it, and anybody that has tried using it, or shall I say most people that I have seen that has tried to use it has come back for more, you know, to order more. So I like to use it as often as possible when it's in season. Again, it's just a salt replacement. But when I made this recipe the first time, I didn't even use sea bean. What I used instead was I used the truffle salt. Truffle salt is great. It's we have it at our farm. When you go to fancy restaurants, a lot of times they'll have salt, French fries in truffle salt. And they make other recipes too, but a lot of times you'll see the French fries, and it definitely is delicious. Truffles are delicious. Very expensive too. So a lot of times when people want truffles, they'll settle for the truffle salt or the truffle oil. And by the way, another good alternative for, and I don't know about the health benefits, but a good alternative for the oil would be truffle oil. So the one thing I'm going to miss about this recipe is I'm not putting in the truffles. It would be too salty if I did that. But I'm going to put on some pepper. And I don't know if it's because sweet potatoes have never been exactly my favorite, but I do like to throw on the extra spices. And again, it's a great dish. We want this heated up till 400 degrees, and then we put it in, and it'll be ready in about 45 minutes. And that's my experience with my oven. Sometimes people might want it a little crispy. Sometimes they want to cook a little less. So you can just kind of go from there. So again, on our website, we have morels in season. If not, we have portobellos, and we have shiitake and all kinds of mushrooms. We have sea beans in season, even out of season. They cultivate it in Mexico, but people like the wild stuff, how it grows. We have the truffle salt, truffle oil, and all kinds of things. But again, I call this the sweet Morel-ato. And we are going to put it in, and in about 45 minutes we'll pull it out and see how it looks.